Guys, let's do this.
Episode 2.
All right, guys, we're back for episode number 2 of Till the Dirt with Tommy and MJ. I'm so into you. Are you so into me?
Yeah, I love you, Toots.
And then what? Like, this is the episode where we tell people that I might have lied to you a little bit?
Well, you always lying.
I always lie?
But anyway, Till the Dirt is basically about our relationship. And last week we talked about the first time we met, which was on Tinder.
In this episode, we talk about some of the things we weren't comfortable sharing with each other when we first met.
We're going to talk about the first time she told me she was on a reality TV show, which, just so you know, was not right away. It actually took a long time.
I took my sweet ass time, and that's the story we're going to tell you. No one in general wants to be thought of as a liar or someone who withholds from their significant other a very, very big fact about themselves because they're still getting to know them. And selfishly, I thought that until I decide that's how long it'll take for you to know that I do reality TV. After you and I had our first date and we started just hanging out, at what point did we become like spend every single night at my house?
It was early on. It was pretty early on. So October, you would go out and do your thing, and then we'd hook up later in November. That's about 3 months into our relationship. By then, we were together pretty much every day.
It sounds super douchey to say like I didn't want to go public with our relationship yet, but that's exactly what it was.
Well, listen, I get it. I get the need to be super cautious and super protective of who you are in this age of influencers and social media and everybody out there putting their business out there. You want to know if you meet someone, if it's sincere, if it's real, or if there's games attached to it.
So we both withheld things from each other, but we were honest at the same time. And what I love about us is that even if there was something that we weren't ready to share, we weren't total liars. We just said, hey, I'm not ready to let you know about this thing about me. You specifically told me you didn't want me to see the inside of your apartment, but you told me that you didn't want me to see the inside of your place. That makes a big difference from you like driving me by a sick crib and being like, oh, that's where I live. We just can't go there. It's being fumigated right now. Do you know what I mean? Gotta give yourself credit for things. Like you too had oberu, which is like your guard was up. Everyone has to hold up a little bit until they're more ready to be vulnerable. I'm not gonna open myself up to you if you're not worth it. Why should I be open with you if you're not fucking worth knowing this intimate knowledge about me? I'm only gonna go there with you when you and I have like met that rite of passage.
But with men, you were somewhat more guarded. I know the neckbone that you were dating before me, he was full of shit and he was doing other stupid things to you. So that also puts you on your...
about what kind of job he had and he was just a mess.
Yeah, but he was with another girl too. Like, he had a whole bunch of lies. But none of that matters. All I'm talking about is that when I had met you, you had just come off with that jack off.
Right.
So you had your guard up a little bit. Anyway, what was it like for you? You know what I mean? It had to be weird for you not to tell someone that you're with, spending a lot of intimate time with, what you do for a living. I mean, listen, you told me you do real estate, and there was signs and shit. There was real estate stuff all over. So, like, that was easy to believe. Like, I helped you do open houses at that point and red carpets or stuff like that. But, like, I just figured that as a popular real estate agent, they go to those things just as much.
And that's a big part of why I was discovered to do Shaw's was probably because I was balling in real estate. I was passionate about it then, and I'm passionate about it now. I wasn't just some random person who wasn't doing anything. I was successful in my own career. But babe, at this point, you and I are 3-4 months in. I feel like I can trust you. I feel like you're a keeper. I've spent enough time with you that I know I want to go out somewhere with you. I kind of feel like I want to like show us off, and I want to do a big group dinner. Like, I know in the past I canceled on us for like doing, public things, but now I know I'm ready. I want to like do PDA and stuff. So I get an invite to this big dinner party and you're my date.
That was the first time that we were going out publicly. And that was the first time that you told me, yo, I'm just giving you a heads up before we go out. People might say something. I'm on a TV show. It's, Shaza, blah, blah, blah. And that was the first time you told me. So how was that one, to keep the secret as long as you did? And two, did you have any worries about what would happen once we had that conversation?
You can't just meet a guy and then just say, I'm on a television show about wealthy Persians who run LA. Our Shaw song is like, we run LA. We run LA. Okay. We're not like trust fund kids. We actually have to work for a living, and our parents have to work for a living. It's honestly the combination of being really selfish about where I thought I was getting to know a guy, that it was my timeline, that I would be able to like just get to know you for who we are without all that outside stuff. And I didn't think that I would be dropping a bomb on you that was going to make a difference. If I told you on the first day, you would have probably run because you would have Googled me.
100%.
Which you didn't.
100%. I wanted nothing to do with the reality television aspect of anything at that point in time in my life. People just see me and they see how I met my wife, and they just see things typically from her vantage point, and they don't really know a lot about mine. So just a little background so everybody understands what's going on. Before I met my wife, just before, I was coming off my own situation with reality television. And at that point, it was a real negative experience. Basically, my best friend, who was like my brother, Jamie Sangouthai, he was on the Chloe and Lamar show. You know, we had just had a falling out. You know, he's dead now. At that time, it was just a real negative cloud that hung over my head when it came to reality TV and all that came with it. So in a nutshell, without going too deep, I grew up with Jamie Sangouthai. He's from Queens like me. I grew up with Lamar Odom. You know, I know him for 20 years. We went to high school together. So I had just had a falling out with Jamie and, you know, Lamar too, to a certain extent. So at that time, they had just been on the Chloe and Lamar show. You know, I was there for all that. I saw all of it. And I just want to say one thing about Chloe and the Kardashians. I only met them a few times here and there. I don't want to pretend that I had a close relationship with any of them, because I didn't. I knew them in passing. And Jamie and I were frickin' frack. Lamar he was an NBA basketball player, you know, and then he met Chloe, who's at that time was a big celebrity, however you want to use that word. So they were out there. You see Lamar in bits and pieces. It's not like you spend a ton of time with him. He's got a full plate. Jamie and I, we'd spend all our time together, and then we'd spend our weekends here. And, you know, before that show was going to start, there was a lot of excitement for him. He was going to be on television. You know, these people were all famous. They're all doing great things. He thought it was going to be his big break. And I was there to witness it. See my friend be in that position was a fantastic time. The reason that he came out to LA was to take over and run Lamar's record label. I wasn't really here for how that all transpired. And he was out there having a blast. But there was 2 seasons. The first season...
You said Jamie wasn't portrayed in the best light, right?
By the second season. The first season...
Things are always positive in the first season.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar will tell you this. He himself was a drug addict. I mean, Odom wrote a book about being a drug addict. So Lamar was doing his own thing. So when you try to tie your sale to that person, which Jamie was, like in terms of business and things like that, it's hard to do that with the drug addict. They're going to let you down a lot. And then before long, Jamie got caught up too. He had diverticulitis. He had it real bad. Like that's something that's supposed to happen to you older in life. He had it at a real young age that they couldn't even spot it. And whatever. Long story short, before long, he got real sick. He was in the hospital for like the next 4 or 5 months. He wound up shitting in a bag for a long time. He kind of got hooked on the painkillers in the hospital. And when he came out here, it wasn't that big a deal. People were still just throwing Vicodins and perks and shit like that his way. And before long, it just went down a bad road. Now listen, again, Lamar just hooked up with Chloe. It was real quick. They met and got engaged and were married all within a few months. So there was an introduction to the family. Like first thing Chloe did was get rid of the hangers-on. There was people in Lamar's group that were just kind of there. So she trimmed the fat. She got rid of a lot of them. Jamie was not one of those people. Jamie was he was in Lamar's bridal party. He was a lot closer. So he wound up kind of linking up with them. But once the season started, Jamie didn't have anything going on. Those shows are meant for you to kind of get it going, get something going on, and he didn't have it. And
so by second season, you're saying one comes and goes.
Yeah, one comes and goes, but the one thing that came from one was his Q factor increasing. Like, people know him now.
What is Q factor?
Just, his...
Is it like clout?
No, it's like, your popularity index. Like how fashionable you are, how in you are, how present you are. His Q rating went up a lot after that first season because, again, he's friends with Lamar. Lamar, the Lakers just won the title. There's no bigger stars in LA. 2011, I think, 2012, right around there. And, the Kardashians are the biggest thing on television. So this dude's running around with all them. He got real popular real quick. And originally, I thought this was going to be a launching pad for the kid. And yes, in some ways, me. Not necessarily from the TV. I'm talking about like business opportunities. Like at that time, Rob Kardashian, who he was friendly with, I know Rob a little bit, not too much. I'm not trying to say that I know him. A couple of times we've hung out, but he and Rob knew each other. Rob was just getting business opportunity after business opportunity thrown at him. And the other dude, Disick, same shit. It wasn't just the Kardashians, and it was anybody in the periphery. I mean, Odom, his Q factor went through the roof. He was already on the Lakers, but he blew up when he met Chloe. And then you had the Hawk sisters, the food god. Anybody in their sphere was blowing up. It's right around the time where Instagram and being an influencer actually started to mean something. So it was on the ground floor of something that could potentially blow up for everybody. So Jamie's going to run with these people? Oh, wow, forget it. There's just going to be tons and tons of business opportunities. I consider myself to be not stupid, and if afforded the right opportunities, I feel like we would have made a killing, and it never materialized. He took advantage of that popularity. Shit, I did too. We had a lot of fun, but there was no works Monday. Monday morning, I got work. What are we doing? Like, I had work. I worked every day. Jamie had no job. So Jamie was always, trying to think of the next business venture, the next business idea, but everything was tied to Elle, and Elle's not coming to a meeting. So now it's Elle's fault. No one's taking any responsibility for anything. It's just about the good time, and then season 2 comes around and they what's this kid up to? We got to paint a story of this kid, and he didn't give him nothing to go off of aside the fact that he was getting fucked up. So they kind of ran with that and just pushed that narrative that he had problems with substance abuse and blah, blah, blah. And then, so he went further and further down that path. And then he went to rehab for a weekend, and on the show, it's, oh, look, he went to rehab and he's great. But when the camera stopped rolling, his weekend in rehab didn't solve his problem. Things just kind of progressively got worse. I'm not going to say I'm an angel. I partied a little bit too, but I was nothing like that. You know what I mean? I wasn't partying like how these guys were. But at the same point in time, I was no one to tell them to stop. Like, for me to be like, yeah, you have a problem. It's like, who are you to say I have a problem,
Before Jamie went to rehab, did you see something bad happen at the place in Roosevelt?
Yeah, before he went to rehab, he almost died, bro. He was getting fucked up. Like, I come home from work and he'd be like passed out on the floor. You'd wake him, shake him up, he'd wake up and be coherent again. And, what are we doing here? What's going on, bro? And then when he eventually went to rehab, I moved back towards Hollywood. I was going to get away from there if it didn't work out, because I couldn't, it was like watching someone drown in quicksand. And then before you know it, it's like, wait a second, I'm standing in the quicksand too, because every day I'm with you. All my time is spent with you. So if you're doing this and you're going completely downhill, I'm running in place then, or I'm going backwards.
So he comes out of rehab.
He's great. And I basically moved in with him. I don't even go to the other place. I just pay the rent just in case some shit happens. And then we went home for Christmas. He had just gotten his money. Now, when he got the diverticulitis, it was misdiagnosed. So the hospital he was at was notorious. It was the worst hospital in Queens. It's actually closed now. He's one of the reasons that they had to close, because his lawsuit, they had tons of them. He got $1 million. Lawyer took what he took. So he got $700,000. We were supposed to do a hot dog business. There was going to be a tie-in to the show. None of that came to fruition because of the drugs. In the end, it wouldn't have mattered because Chloe and Lamar broke up and there was never a season 3. But Jamie was in good spirits. This was the plan. At that time, when he was going back to New York to see family, see his mother for Christmas, the plan was to go there, spend New Year's in New York, but then we were supposed to fly back the second week of January. And I was on the plane. He wasn't on his. And, you call him, I'll be there another few days, another couple of days, another week, so you keep speaking to him. And now he's by this person's house or that person's house. And those people and they ain't good people. And you're like, oh, shit. And by the time he came back, the wheels were off the cart, bro. Like he was fucked up. And I'm fucked because I let the place go. So now I live with you. The plan for us now was to then go get a place together. You got your money. So I can't get a place with you, bro. Like how you are right now, I can't do it. I can't watch you die every day.
So then what happened?
So we had fallen out, we were getting to fights every day at this point. You know what I mean? Like he'd tell me some crazy lie. And it's the equivalent is like, I was riding on a unicorn today. And, I don't mean like that. Like he's telling you real shit, but it's just so far-fetched. You might as well be telling me that.
Like Nike and Coca-Cola called?
Exactly. It's like, bro, I know that's a lie. I'm sitting right here.
Right.
And then, so I had words with him and I had kind of words with L too. So like I turned my back. I left everything I had accumulated in life up to that point. I took a bag of shit and I left.
But what was Lamar doing during this 6-month period when he was doing really well and you guys are gearing up for another season?
Lamar wanted to see if he was going to give him any money, which I respect.
Oh, like pay him back.
Like he got hit off with a lot of money. Jamie didn't take care of his mother, which he should have. She died of a broken heart. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy she's dead because her life was fucking miserable once her son died. But I'm saying he never did anything for her. Never offered Lamar, yo, bro, here's some money for all that you've done for me. And listen, Lamar wasn't looking for the handout. He was just looking for the gesture, as he had every right in the world to do.
Is that what caused them to grow apart?
Well, no, I'm fairly confident. There was a tape that TMZ released where Lamar and Jamie are fucked up. I'm fairly sure Jamie sold that tape to TMZ.
Allegedly.
So Lamar, at that point in time, I think was kind of done with Jamie. Now, I get it. The kid's dead now. Lamar's also said he's done a lot of fucked up shit. He's got to know that the monkey on the back makes you do certain crazy shit. The Jamie I know was not that dude. The Jamie that I know, I miss every day, every second of every day. I hate the fact he never met my wife. I hate the fact he's never going to meet my son. I kick myself for not being a better friend to him while he was alive. The Jamie that I know, that I grew up with, was magic. Any room he walked in, he was the most charismatic person in the room. He was a real smart kid too. He had a full scholarship to RPI, which is, one of the top technological schools in the country behind MIT. He had a job with Bear Stearns, but that was also the problem. The Jamie that died, or the last Jamie that was around, was a motherfucker. He was a liar. All those bad things you hear about drug addicts, Jamie was that at the end. So I left that. And when I met you, like, I would talk a lot about that. And like the last thing I was looking to have any involvement with was any type of reality TV or any type of celebrity, or like, I was so turned off of that shit at that time. Like I was running from it. Because in my mind, it was like that shit killed my friend. I could say hindsight, time has moved on, and I could sit and be objective and really like look back. He shouldn't have been in that spot. He wasn't ready. It was just a total bad opportunity for him, which came disguised as a good one. The reason that I'm kind of belaboring this point is I just want to get it across that I wanted nothing to do with the reality television aspect of anything at that point in time in my life. So I'm kind of telling her this.
And it's definitely over my head. Like when you talk about this now and I'm listening to you, there are details that have a completely new meaning for me.
Well, you didn't delve too deep. Like the same thing we talked about with the last episode. There was a level of trust that you and I hit off from jump. I feel like if you delve too deep and you didn't bring up the fact that you were on a reality TV show, and when it came up later, it would have put like a little bit of a pit between us. Like, wow, you didn't tell me? I was just getting that off my chest. You weren't really coming back with, so tell me, what does Chloe like to wear? What are the Kardashians like? If you would let me get it off my chest because I needed to. I didn't have my friend as a sounding board, but that was it. And then we move on.
You were worried that I was going to try and meet a Kardashian through you. I was worried that you were going to judge me from what you saw in the episodes before you got to know me, and then start putting bad
Which
pieces.
I've never done. To this day, I've never done. I've never seen an old episode. I've only seen the episode of Shaw's that I'm in. I haven't watched anything prior to that.
Exactly. What I'm saying is, I had to be worried about whether or not you were gonna put the pieces together before I wanted you to find out, because then I know I for sure would have logged on and found those episodes and binged every single stitch of film and then checked YouTube and checked Google, and then I know that you would have read a lot of things that weren't going to be things that I was ready to share. Like, I'd rather you hear them from me than online. And you don't know what might spook a guy that you really like.
But once I knew from you that you were on it, I didn't want to go back. I would formulate opinion off of you or about you that would be different from the person that I know that I've spent the last 4 months with day in, day out. It didn't make sense to me. I felt like all it would be able to do was irk me. But like, your past is your past. I don't care what you did, who you were with, what you were into. That shit don't bother me, bro, because I got a past too. Everybody got one. The only thing that would bother me is if I thought that incubator of trust that we built, because it really was. I never have had that with anybody else. It's one of the reasons that you and I are still here together. It's one of the reasons that we have a baby and we built the life that we have. It was that we were so truthful and honest in that period of time that if I found out that was bullshit, that would have been different, because it would have made everything a house of cards.
Like, I totally respect that. We were really open and honest.
It was really meant to be, because again, the timing of the way things worked, there's a reason you and I are sitting here. Let's put it that way.
Honey, that's a lot. You went through a lot. Whew. I thought this shit was going to be funny.
All right, so that obviously is a pretty heavy topic.
You said it was a story that needed to be told.
Yeah, and it was. It's if you're going to tell our story, it's a big part of it.
Shifting gears a little bit and
going back to the friends. What do your friends think of me the first time that I met them? Because, they said one thing to me. I'm sure they were saying a completely different thing to you.
All my friends thought you were super funny, really intelligent, and wild, and let me be who I am. So I think that the best ingredients for a real, genuine connection and being able to maintain that is you have moral values that you share. And like, it didn't matter whether you were going to be a super wealthy guy and then be a dick and a douche and a liar. It mattered that you're decent and funny and smart.
If I had one piece of advice, though, one pearl of wisdom that I could share, it would be to play charades early in the relationship.
What do you mean?
Going back to us, our first New Year's together, she had like a New Year's get together. We had a little bit of a party. And by the end of the night, what filtered and what was left, there was maybe 10, 12 people. And we played charades and we dominated.
So everyone was a couple, and it's about 3:45 a.m. and it's time to keep the night going. And what better than charades? So we end up doing and
we were in sync. That's why I'm telling you as advice, because I can only go off of our relationship. We're a success story. We've been together 7 years. We're married. We have a baby. I can only go off of what got us here. And I could speak from experience when I say charades. If you play charades and you have a little bit of a connection.
No. Charades is a compatibility test. If you suck at it, you might end the relationship prematurely.
And maybe you should. Because again, for me and her, we're here now. We played charades a few months into the relationship and we dominated. I'm telling you, like it was eerie, like it was one word examples or not, one symbol or whatever. And we got right away. The other people were in awe. It was awe-inspiring game of charades. And I today still think about it.
Our victory created ripple fights with our friends that were there coupled up saying like, how come they can figure out these maze answers, these labyrinth questions, and then we over here have been together for 15 years and we don't know. I don't think anyone ever expected me to be with a guy from Queens with such a deep accent.
What accent? I have perfect diction.
Like, it was a little weird. We probably thought, babe, that you were going to be just around to give me some mojo.
Yeah. Bang you out and moving on. Keep
the fact
pushing.
is,
that's why she was running with the crew. They were the pickle chasers. Her and Layla And, there are a couple other ones. Her single friends, they had jackets made up, like in high school, when you have like the varsity letter, it had a P on it, and there was a big pickle on the back. The pickle chasers. Like, Layla's still out there right now. She's still captain of the pickle chasing team. She's still out there. My wife had to retire a jacket. They took it back from her. But she was still, at this particular time, they didn't know whether or not she was, she caught a pickle or whether or not she was still out there pickle chasing. But, looks like you got your dill.
I take back all my previous answers. All of my friends thought, well, this guy is probably giving it to her good.
Because you've got a million friends to bounce this type of shit off of. Meanwhile, I'm stuck out here on an island.
I'm basking in Robin's 31 flavors. Tommy, do you feel like...
Oh,
no?
hang on, babe. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my son. I'm grateful that we're all healthy. I'm grateful for the opportunity to do this podcast. I appreciate all the fans out there that have listened, liked, subscribed. You guys are the best. I'm grateful for the Mets. I'm grateful
and you're grateful for Steve Cohen.
For Steve Cohen.
So people don't know what you're doing. People don't know that you do a gratitude bell. You guys, so a couple years ago, I think around the time when our son was born, you started to talk about things out loud, which I've adopted. I think it's really cool because when you say it out loud, you are kind of like speaking it into intention, like more stronger. It's supposed to calm you down, right? This is supposed to like make you a better person.
Well, she's, my wife, that's her. She usually gets things half right. She's half right on this. It didn't go that far back. I actually had to get court-ordered anger management, and I went to, a lot of the sessions. She'd turn me on the books, and I would do a lot of reading on my own. I'm a pretty voracious reader. I like to read, and I read a lot of Napoleon Hill, like she's talking about.
I'm going to change your name to Rita.
Where you could kind of put it out there into the universe. I have a tendency to...
You have a bad temper.
No, not even that. I have a tendency to think that the worst case scenario of things are going to happen. So like when I'm forecasting into the future, when I think, all right, I think on what's the worst that could happen. You need to think on what's the best that could happen. And that's really just a matter of thought. You could switch that thought and you could change that point of view. And now that I had the little guy, I definitely wanted to be more positive. There's nothing worse than thinking for your son, what's the worst case scenario of something that's going to happen? Who wants to think like that? So I think I want to be a positive. I want to have that positive thought process. And one of the ways that I do that is by setting gratitude alarms. I set 7 a day. My son, his birthday was the 17th. I thought 17 might be a little overkill. So I set 7 a day. And anytime they go off, wherever I am, no matter what I'm doing, I could be in the middle of the conversation with someone. It might come off as rude, but this is more about my...
Awkward.
But, it's funny because I've told a lot of people to do this. And, not everybody listens, but I've had a few people that have listened. And, I had one person recently that was doing it and said I had to stop because, they were just going off during phone calls at work or, if I was having a meeting or something, it would just go off. So I just couldn't do it anymore. And I was like, you don't get it. That's exactly when you're supposed to be doing it. That you being grateful supersedes everything else in your life at that moment. That's what's most important. That all the other stuff is just white noise, And I promise you, because I know firsthand experience, if you stop whatever you are doing and you say what you're grateful for, the other person, if you're in the middle of a conversation, you're in a meeting, you're in a job interview, I don't care, whatever it is, when you explain to them why you do it, they're going to be like, wow, that's awesome. I should do that too. No one's going to look at you like, well, you're a weirdo. Everyone's going to be like, wow, I really should take time to appreciate what I'm grateful for as well.
I didn't know you were going to get so deep today. I just want to say I'm the opposite of you. I'm extremely optimistic. Like I automatically assume the best thing is going to happen to me,
well,
even
you got
if it
me.
doesn't.
You got me, so I get it. I get why you would feel like that. You wake up every morning, I'm next to you in bed. I get why you would think that rainbows come out of your ass.
I have to smell you before I see you. So don't even try to say that. I don't know what that means.
What are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? I stink? You trying to say I stink? You call me stinky?
Listen, I can't imagine being the person that thinks the worst is going to happen, but I do understand.
You ever met your mother? You ever met her?
But I do understand why you're like that.
I don't want that for my kid, though. I don't want to have a conversation with him about, his science project or, what's going to happen next year I don't ever want it to be from a bad place. I want him to just think positive, because it's very true. If you think positive things will happen to you.
I love that you're actively doing something to rewire yourself so that you become more of a natural optimistic person, because it is really tough to worry and no one wants to do that. So I love that. And I do think it's really fun to watch the expression on people's faces when your alarm goes off and you don't care what's happening. You're just going to say your gratitude. And then they're like, what is he doing? And then they realize that there's a lot of power in that. So I'm into it.
Thank you, babe. I appreciate you you recognizing the effort that I've put in.
Yes.
I appreciate that you take notice of that. I don't do it for myself. I do it for you. I do it for our little guy.
Relationships are important for acknowledging and showing appreciation for the people that you're with.
Yeah, that's a necessary thing. Anybody that's in a relationship, you need to not be taken for granted. So sometimes you just need that pat on the back from your partner. It's necessary.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Okay. I also am extremely grateful. Like, I too want to shout out all you guys that are tuning in and downloading and following us. It means everything. We love doing this. We want to keep it going. So, yes. Gratitude.
Yeah, totally. I mean, with the response that we've gotten so far, the only regret we have is we didn't start to do this a while ago. It's really been overwhelming. We genuinely appreciate it. We enjoy this, coming here, shooting the shit with you guys. And
you know what?
I'm real grateful to have the opportunity to do it with you.
The thing is, how we started this, though, I think it was when we were asked by people, where the F is your podcast?
Well, that's not true. I've had this in my head for a while. We just were looking for the right... we had the perfect combination of things that worked out that, we're able to do this now. We got the right team together in place.
I had a dream. Now I bid you farewell. Thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Till the Dirt with Tommy and MJ. We're so happy you're coming on this journey with us. It would mean so much to us if you would rate our show, give us 5 stars, leave a nice comment, and subscribe so that you can stay up to date with all our new episodes. You could also follow us on all platforms at Till the Dirt with Tommy and MJ. See you next week.